Yeah. Okay. Good morning. So, back to the Reb Moshe. Okay, so it's on page 8. And here we are going to continue to see there is one aspect of Reb Moshe's approach to psak which comes across very strongly in this tshuva. And that is, how shall I put this? His confidence, his willingness, and we're going to see, today we're going to see his willingness to stand his ground against great poskim. So he said that the way we have Tosfos is just Torah Sofer. It's a scribe's error. It's a copyist's error. It's wrong. Which itself is quite a bold approach to make. True, he didn't just say it stam. He brought multiple proofs to it. And now we're going to see the way that he uses the same approach to other poskim as well. And we're not going to do the entire tshuva, but we're going to do bits. We're going to pick bits of it. So we're on the second column, the Lochein Ledina. Page 8, second column towards the bottom. Lochein Ledina. Therefore, Lahalacha, Bein LeTosfos, Bein LaHarambam, Va'af LeRashi, Ike Issa Ritzicha, Miloi Sirtzach, Gam Al Uba. Reb Moshe stands his ground. He is absolutely convinced that whether it's Rashi or whether it's Rambam, there is an Issur of murder for a Jew, for a Jewish fetus. It's Ritzicha. V'rak shapotur aherga mimisa. Just, it doesn't carry with it the death penalty. V'osel ahorgoi af lepikuach nefesh, and therefore it's forbidden to kill him even for pikuach nefesh. Any v'rak lehatzalas imoi. There's only one exception, and that is to save the mother. Then there's a heter if v'lo b'shel shum tzorech, not for any other reason. Umitam zeh hoyresi, and for this reason I paskened she'af sheharoifim oimrim sheyesh chashash shemotomus ha'im k'shel yargu es ha'ubar. What would be if the doctors say, sorry, I've got something on my tongue and it hurts to talk, so never mind. So says Reb Moshe, what would be if the doctors say there is a possibility that the mother might be besakona if she carries through the pregnancy, but it's only a possibility, it's not definite. Afshel inyan chilul Shabbos v'chol ha'yisurin ha'yu mechalelin v'ha'yu oivrin, insofar as being a mechalel Shabbos to save somebody for a sofek, of course we do so. But mikol mokim laharoig, the underlined bit, laharoig esa uba, but to kill it, it would be osa until, what is the threshold of proof? An shetiyeh umdano laharoifim gedoyla koroiv levadai shetomus ha'im. It needs to be almost certain that the mother's going to die. Anything less than that, you don't have bought the fetus. And you can see where this is going. He's now going to talk about discovering that the child Nebuch, he can discover through various tests of the amniotic fluid. You can discover, for example, he's going to talk about Tay-Sachs. Right? You familiar with the Tay-Sachs disease? It's a genetic disease that affects only Ashkenazi. That's why when people go on Shidduchim, they do what's it called? It's gone out of my head now. Dori Yesharim, thank you. They do Dori Yesharim to test for it. Right. That you can do. The Gedolim have said that's okay. But let's say a woman is pregnant and they find out the kid is going to be, it won't live long, it'll have a severely impaired life. He says, so what? That's you cannot abort. So then it needs to be Ke'en Vadai Shehu Roidef. And therefore he goes on to say, V'gam Poshel She'en Chiluk Lefi Zeh Bein Avlodos. It makes no difference about the so-called quality of life of the fetus. Da'af Havlodos Shelefi Das HaRoifim Ke'ilu Shelo Yichyu Shonim Rabbis. They won't live for long. Kahod and Elodim Ezi Elodim B'machla Nikras Tay-Sachs. Afilu shenoid ali de abdikos shavla di evlad keze osur kiven de lahaim leka sakona. There's no sakona to the mother. The kid isn't a roidef, even though there's a tsar, and even if the mother and the father will catch this illness, it makes no difference. And therefore he says, here Moshe goes on and says, and therefore mitam zeh, over to the next column, amarti leharofim shomrei Torah, he says, therefore I advise from doctors, shalei yasu b'dika. Don't do this b'dika. I've been asked this a few times, because what's the point of doing it? Because it's not going to make any difference anyway. So he says, don't do it. Ki lo yeta'eles mezaki asurim lahapil. Okay, let's stop here for a minute. And I want you to contrast this now. We're now going to learn a tshuva from... Just testing it really, yes, it does work. A tshuva from Reb Chaim Ozer. Reb Chaim Ozer Grudzinski, right? I'm sure have heard of Reb Chaim Ozer Grudzinski, the acknowledged posek, based in Vilna during the Second World War, and arguably the greatest posek in Europe at the time, certainly. Okay, his tshuvas. So I've given you a photocopy here. Reb Moshe is going to Reb Moshe is going to reference this tshuva later. Sugazund. Reb Moshe is going to reference this tshuva later. But I think this is an appropriate juncture to stop, and because it fits in neatly with what Reb Moshe has just referenced. Okay? So, you have it here. It's on page Kuf Pei Aleph. It's Chelek Gimel Siman Ayin Beis Ois Gimel. Yeah. Okay? It's Ois Gimel here. Al Das She'elosoi. So somebody asked Reb Chaim Ozer the following shaila. Oides Isha Chaylanis Machalas Horeya. A woman who has a lung disease, Machalas Horeya. She has a lung disease. Shenis Abro, she became pregnant. Ula Divrei Horoifim, according to the doctors, you must do an abortion. And if you don't do the abortion, sakonas moves lo beleidosa. Sorry. There is a sakonas moves beleidosa. There is real danger that the mother might die. Im lishmoya laharofe, should she listen to the rofe? What would you say, Rabbi Say? On the basis of where we're up to, what would you paskin? Or let me flip it round. What do you think Rabbi Moshe would paskin? There's a reason that I stopped at this juncture.
So, it's certain that you will...
No.
Sakonas Movis, she's in danger of... It's not certain.
It's not certain, okay.
I think.
So what would you think Rav Moshe, if this Shiloh went to Rav Moshe, what do you think Rav Moshe would say?
According to that, no?
He wouldn't have, he would have said no.
I think he would...
because, I mean, if you say danger of death is like certain, then...
Sakonas Moves. They just said there is a danger of death. I mean, each time you cross the road, there's a danger of death.
So you have to save the mother from the danger of death, or from death, like...
According to the last thing we read from Moshe, it's only if it's almost certain.
Thank you. So I think what Rav Moshe would say is, quantify the risk, the threat to me. I'll just say, there is a danger. How high is, where is the threshold? What is your professional medical expert opinion? Is it 5%, 10%, 90%? This, I think that's what Rav Moshe would say. Where do we think Rav Moshe would set the bar? He said to us, it has to be Ke'en, what was his Lashon? Ke'en Vadai. It has to be very high. It would have to be, I wouldn't like to put a number on it, I would say, if there was a number on it, I would say probably anything below 85%. I doubt Rav Moshe would say. It has to be Ke'en Vadai. It's got to be pretty certain that there is a... He doesn't say that his other Lashon is Koroiv Levadai. Koroiv Levadai. Very close to 100%. Okay? So, this is what Rav Moshe would say. Now let's contrast it with what Reb Chaim Ozer said. So the Rav who asked the question to Reb Chaim Ozer we're still in the middle of this thing. Umistapik, his suffix is Ledivrei HaRambam, that we've learned. So the Rambam says there, you can, when the uber is still inside, you abort because the fetus is a roidif. Maybe that's only because he is currently a roidif. Whereas now she's 2 months pregnant, for argument's sake, right? The danger is beledosa. In 7 months' time, there is an as yet unquantified level of risk, of threat, whatever that is, before we even get into where it is. But one thing is for sure, is the uber currently a roidef? No, definitely not. So the Rambam, so this is the way the Rav, whoever posed we were not told who it is, but whoever posed the Shaila to Reb Chaim Ozer put it this way. He put it by saying, well, maybe according to the Rambam, who says that you do abort, that is because he's a roidef, but he's currently not a roidef. Or do I say, well, since I know potentially in 7 months' time he's going to be a roidef, why do we wait? This is the way he put the Shaila. Listen to how Reb Chaim Ozer answers. Be'emes. Einoi nire shum chiluk bedavar im roidefu miyadai la'achazman. He says Reb Chaim Ozer, amazing. He says, the truth is, it doesn't seem to be any difference whether he's a roidef now or he will be a roidef. Ela, she'im hu bidin roidef. If he is a roidef, yeshlei medahecha, shehu sofek im tistakin alidei zeh, have a sofek roidef to lein itzalat zila benafshay. If what you need to look at is the level of threat that this situation poses to the life of the mother. That's what you have to look at. He says, don't focus on whether it is that he's a roidef now or he's going to be a roidef in 7 months' time. Look at the level of threat. If it's a sofek whether the mother will be in danger, then it's a sofek roidef. So he's a sofek roidef. So even if she was in labor now, a sofek roidef, it's only a vadai roidef. You need to be a definite roidef. So, in other words, this fellow is jumping to the next stage by saying, oh, he's going to be a roidef in 7 months' time. Reb Chaim Ozer is saying that even in 7 months' time, he might not be a roidef. Maybe it's only a sofek sakona. And you can't kill a sofek roidef. That's his first point. Okay. But amiras horoife she'efshe shetistakin have a sofek roidef. When the doctor says, maybe she'll be b'sakona, that all that creates is a sofek roidef, and that's not good enough. V'gam be'ikanem onos horoifim, and the very concept of how much we actually trust the doctors. The reason that we trust them, not because, and here we have to be careful, obviously it doesn't mean that we think that they just make stuff up, but their ability to be precise, the limitations of science, we take it on board, says the Chasam Sofer, as a sofek pikuach nefesh, but we never take it on as a vadai. So it's not going to help you anyway. Mikol mokem nira bevadai. However, says Reb Chaim Ozer, back to the shoyel, he says, you've approached this question from the wrong perspective. You have invoked the Rambam. I wouldn't have gone there. Mikol mokem nira bevadai de ikka bezeh bepashtus to ha kapashtus to hagois maimoni de lav mish, oh, that Gemara, I'm not sure. De lav mishum roidefu. This is not the fundamental question here. It's not a roidef. The mishamaya korad fala, as the Gemara says. It's mishamaya. Ukepirish Rashi, the uber loy have a nefesh. He says that he's fascinating. He's paskening like Rashi, not like the Rambam. So it says Reb Chaim Ozer. On what basis? I don't know. Uber is not a nefesh. V'gam the shit of the Rambam. Even if you want to go according to the Rambam, that what? Then it is a nefesh, and you have to come along to the idea of roidef. Shekva Kosav, even according to the Rambam. Shekosav, I know to be hood, but Madura Tinyan Chesh Mishmal Agri pick. De Lahoch is the Tziruf de Roidef, Mishum de Insor Lagus Atrefa Mishval Sholem. The Noda Behuda says the reason that the Rambam required to add an additional motivation here, an additional factor, and that is that he's a roidef. That's because in svaro laregis atrefa b'shvil hasholem. In the same way that it is not logical to kill a trefa for a sholem. A trefa is somebody that's going to die, definitely going to die within the next 12 months, right? So there's not a svara to kill a trefa b'shvil hasholem, for somebody that is going to live indeterminately. Hachinama, for the same reason, ha'uba lulei tam deroidef. If it wasn't for the time of a roidef, it would be a svara to say that the nefesh hasholem should take precedence. But we have a svara of roidef. Nira says, now here Reb Chaim Ozer says a big chiddush, and you're going to see that Reb Moshe is going to reject this chiddush. Says Reb Chaim Ozer, even the Rambam, that for some reason saw it necessary to incorporate an additional reason of roidef, chol zeh b'maksheleleid. You're only a roidef when she's in active labor. Roidef is only when she's in active labor.
Why?
Let's see. Give him a chance. Yeah, very good. When she's in labor, then the Gemara says in Erechin to given to Okar Vlad. Once the fetus has, so to speak, detached, is in the process of detaching itself, then it attains a status kagufa acharina, and then we wait. Remember the Gemara in Erechin, the Mishnah Erechin, that we wait.
Yeah.
Ulahachi, and that's the reason that we don't say gabe uba yerachimai. Then we don't say ubar yerachimai. Remember I mentioned this to you? Ubar yerachimai. Until that point in time, says Reb Chaim Ozer, a fetus is no more than an arm of the mother. And if there is a halacha to kill the mother, then you kill the fetus. In the same way, when you kill the mother, you kill the mother's kidneys and heart and lungs and eyes. So she has an uber inside of her. It's before it's Yashval HaMashber, it's uber yerachimai. And therefore, roidef and none of these things come into play because there is no separate entity here, says Reb Chaim Ozer. As long as she's not in active labor, Pasuk HaRambam, the Rambam Paskins, do uber yerachimai, that she is just like the thigh of the mother. What would be the halacha if you it's fascinating, he takes this one stage further. What would be if you have to cut off somebody's arm in order to save their life? Somebody's in danger of dying, but I can save him, and the only way to save him is by cutting off his arm. You know, there was a famous, they made a film of it, I think. It was a story of a guy who was in mountain climbing, was it in the Andes or somewhere in the middle of nowhere, and he got trapped. And he had to cut his own hand off to get away, otherwise he would have died of hunger, thirst, etc. And I think they made a film about it, a book. I think it's a true story. I think about somebody who was faced with this, but he did a horrible thing, but he had no choice, right? He had no choice. It was that to survive. So what would be that if you'd have a chiyuv to save somebody, so if before she's in labor, if you can save the mother by cutting off one of the Evarim, you don't need to come onto the whole thing of roidev, one life, another life. No, lav nefeshu. So it's like cutting off the arm. So of course you cut off the arm. See his approach? Quite fascinating. To save the entire guf. And if it comes out afterwards into the world, even though if you were to have left it, you can see on YouTube, sometimes the svara is made by these so-called armchair philosophers. Well, this is something that if you will leave it, it will develop into a fetus. So